live graphically sensual. They will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away. VHS attacks in your living room. Creepy little gremlins oozing slime in your VCR. Stacks of films to frighten and entertain, hiding in your closet and duplicating on your shelves. It's time to watch. It's time to be scared. Don't look behind you. It's a mess back there. It's a VHS overload. Don't look behind you. It's a mess back there. It's a VHS overload. Oh, 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 oh.
Howdy, gang, and welcome to the first episode of VHS Overload. I gotta be in my bonnet about wanting to do something new, and I'm sorry that I was eating some mini donuts before I got on here, and they're spring donuts, little Debbie ones, and I noticed there was something left behind on my lip there, so sorry about that. But I had been toying around with this idea of doing a series of streams on VHS related stuff because I think a lot of us, at least those of us that grew up in the 80s, have a nostalgia for all things VHS related. And if you're a horror fan, I think that nostalgia is compounded because in the 80s, I think that was the prime time for great VHS cover art. And that's what I want to kick off this VHS Overload series with, is talking about horror VHS artwork. And I'm going to kick this episode off by talking about 5 of my favorite VHS cover art images from 5 movies from 1980 or that were released in 1980. Now, you may have not seen them show up on video store shelves until a little bit later, but these were movies that originally came out in 1980. And I'm going to try to do 5 per year if I can find enough that I think really stand out. And these are going to be ones that when I saw them in the video store, it made me want to rent them. And sometimes a movie can be god awful, but it has fantastic cover art. Whoever was doing the cover art knew exactly what they were doing, because that cover art can make you rent it. And the video stores don't care, because if you bring it back and you say, this was the worst movie I've ever seen, they don't care. They may say they're sorry, but they've already got your money by that point. So there's a lot of marketing that goes into that. because I'm sure some people knew they had a god awful movie that they had created, but the genius behind whoever was doing the promotion, who was doing the VHS cover art, who was doing the posters, and all of that. That's what in the theater gets the butts in the seats, the trailers, the poster art. And then when they moved into rental stores, that's what got people to rent it. And you can say that I'm out of my mind, that I'm out of my gourd, whatever you want to, but I believe this to be true in both instances. Okay. So that's not to say that all of the films were god awful, that they were horrible. Um, Especially these ones I'm going to talk about tonight. I think they're really decent horror films. But there may be some of these as this series goes on that I tell you, well, when I watched the movie, it was a horrible movie, in my opinion, but it had great cover art, and that's what got me to rent it. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. But as always, I want to get some housekeeping stuff out of the way, and then we're going to get right into these movies. So I have some new designs out on deadites.com, my horror shop. Tell them Poe sent you. And again, this is Poe. He is the official mascot of the Deadites on Deck horror shop at deaditesondeck.com. Need to hop on over there and check out the new designs. There are more designs coming soon, but I've got some new Lethal Ladies Inc. Logo designs. That is, again, me and Candace's collective entity, selling entity, when we start selling at the conventions. There are some new Poe designs. There are some new Evil Dead Chicken Poe designs. There's going to be a World of Stephen King design coming soon. For you Intruder fans, the Scott Spiegel movie, Scott Spiegel's Sam Raimi's childhood friend. Sam Raimi is in it. Ted Raimi's in it. And Bruce Campbell's in it at the end. So, you can be on the lookout for all kinds of genre veterans by this point that were in Intruder. So for you Intruder fans, I have a Night Crew design that will be coming up on the site soon. If you're not a horror fan, never fear. You can still go to the site. I've got a handy dandy form that you can fill out because I do custom work, folks. I can put you and your significant other. I can put your kids, your grandkids, your pets, whatever, as long as it's legal, on T-shirts and hats and tote bags, even candles if that's your pleasure. So just let me know on that form at deaditesondeck.com what you want. I've still got a couple of promotions going on the site. If you buy one candle, you can get one free using the promo code CandleCraze25 at checkout. The other one is Slasher Spring 25. The promo code, again, you use at checkout. You can get $10 off your order of $30 or more. Okay. So I got that out of the way. Got a couple of watch alongs coming up this weekend, folks. The House on Sorority Row will be Saturday's watch along starting at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I know Sunday is Easter Sunday, and I fully am prepared for there not to be many people in the initiation watch along. That's also going to take place at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday night. Barring any severe storms or illness or anything that would prevent me from having these watch-alongs. And maybe I'm being a little long-winded because I just lost all three people I had in here, but that's okay. I'm going to push on and push forward. Maybe they had technical problems and they couldn't stay in here. But I've got more Dick's Picks coming up. I got more Cannon Fodder. I got more They're All Messed Up coming up in the coming week. I've got a couple of new Soup and Jallos on the channel. Be sure to check those out if you're at all interested. Movie roulette. There's some new movie roulette that's going to be coming up soon. The Dead Pit Boys gave their $5. That's how you do it, folks. If you give a $5 or more super chat during any of my live streams, that includes this one, that includes watch alongs as well. You can choose any movie for me to watch and do a review on. It can even be one I said I hated in the past. Okay. Perhaps I might like it now. But the Dead Pit Boys picked, CK picked Into the Pit, the Dead Pit documentary, which I'm looking forward to going back and rewatching again. I haven't watched it for a while. Uncle Bill's pick was Necromantic 2, which, sorry, Uncle Bill, I'm not really looking forward to watching it. I started trying to watch it on Shudder the other night, and I was just like, okay, I got to turn this off for a little bit. So be on the lookout for Movie Roulette to be coming up soon. Then there will be another one. Hopefully somebody else will pick another movie and give $5 or more super chat, because I like to cover 2 movies for each Movie Roulette. Menelect gave a super chat, and his pick was Jeepers Creepers. So I'm hoping that somebody else will pick another movie. If not, and I get down to doing that movie roulette, I'll just cover Jeepers Creepers. But I like to cover 2. I've got a movie munchies that should be dropping the last Sunday of this month for Children of the Cornbread Salad. So be on the lookout for that as well. I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So I better go while I got 2 people in here and start talking about these the VHS cover art that really cemented things for me, especially in my movie rental days. All right, so the first one, and I'm gonna do this here so that, I know nobody cares about seeing me, but I'm on there kind of sort of big, and you can also see this VHS cover. Well, you might say, well, this VHS cover looks like shit, Dana. Well, that's because it's old, but I wanted to show you guys and gals what the original cover art looked like. Just imagine this in pristine condition, folks. Now, this was a movie. It's also under the title City of the Living Dead. That's the other title. This is a Lucio Fulci film. Was released in 1980. More than likely didn't show up in video stores until later. But I've told this story before, but I think it warrants telling again. This was a movie that my parents saw at the drive-in, folks. That is just the ultimate in awesomeness to me, that my parents saw The Gates of Hell at a drive-in. Now, many, many moons later, after me and Steve were married, we got a chance to go to a drive-in in Indiana and got to see The Gates of Hell. However, the only problem with that was the Bob head drill scene was missing from this print. And I was very disappointed that I did not get to see the Bob head drill scene. If you've not seen The Gates of Hell and you are, you don't mind gore films, because this is definitely a gore film, I urge you to seek out a copy of this in all its gory glory. Okay. So for years, I heard my dad talk about this, my dad in particular, talk about this movie called The Gates of Hell that he and Mom had watched when they'd been married for a few years. Okay. So they got married in 1974. This didn't come out till 1980. So, good 6 years between that. And I came along in 1976, so I came along in the middle between them getting married and them seeing The Gates of Hell. I know that really doesn't matter, but so I grew up hearing my dad talk about this movie and talking about the guy getting his head drilled, these maggots flying in the window, all of this really, as a young budding horror fan, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, oh, I want to see this movie so bad. So fast forward a few years to, I was at the height of my video store rental days. Okay. And I went into this video store that I hadn't been in before. And my Aunt Sandy was with me. She was my horror movie watching buddy for a really long time. I have very fond memories of us watching a lot of horror movies together and, making snacks to eat and making chili and stuff like that. I've told the story about the first time I watched Evil Dead 2, which I saw Evil Dead 2 before I saw The Evil Dead. And I remember me and Sandy eating chili and watching the awesome Evil Dead 2. But I know I'm not talking about Evil Dead 2, but I will definitely be getting to those movies at some point in time. Because those do have some great VHS cover art. But so I was in this video store, and what did I see before me? A big box edition of The Gates of Hell, and it was like the Holy Grail. Oh, you could almost imagine a light going around this big box VHS, and it's like, I have found it. So I was like, I have got to rent this. This was also where I found I Spit on Your Grave, which is another story for another day. But I saw The Gates of Hell. It was a big box. Oh, it was glorious, folks. And I saw this cover art, the cover art that I've got in the picture of here. And I was just like, oh, you could have given me gold. I felt like I had been given a treasure. And people that are not horror fans might say, dang it, you're off your rocker. You're crazy. Talking about this stuff like it's the grandest thing in the whole world. But if you're not a horror fan, you can't possibly understand that there were certain films that were holy grails. And The Gates of Hell, for me, after hearing my dad talk about it for years and years and years, I finally had my hands on a copy of it. So I brought the big box up there, had to trade it in for the cassette, the VHS cassette, in a plastic box. Yeah, I know. But I took it home and I watched it and I was in love. It probably sounds kind of hokey to say that horror was my first love, but a lot of times I feel like it truly was. As a very awkward child, a very awkward teenager, as many of us felt growing up, we felt like we didn't fit in. I know I felt like I never fit in. And so, horror films were kind of like a consolation prize for me. I never had many friends growing up. And so I grew up with horror movies, And my parents are very good parents. I don't want anybody to think that they're not good parents because they let me watch horror films growing up. They didn't use them as a babysitter or anything like that. They just, there were certain things like I Spit on Your Grave that they told me that they thought I should wait, which that was good call. Good call, Mom and Dad, with that. Because when I actually did see it, I realized why they had said that. Because my budding brain was not prepared for what was in I Spit on Your Grave. I Spit on Your Grave was not a horror film. I Spit on Your Grave was something totally different. But again, that's another story for another day. So the cover art combined with the stories my dad told over the years about this movie was what cemented the deal for me as far as The Gates of Hell. And it did. It was glorious. The head drill scene, the maggots flying in the window, the woman puking up her entire intestinal tract. And I kid you not, that happens in this film. If you don't believe me, watch it, folks. Watch it. Find a for free version, but by all means, watch it. Okay. So I've talked for several minutes about the gates of hell. So let's go on to the next one, which this is Maniac. This is the media home entertainment VHS cover. Who could not resist? Who would be able to resist that cover art, folks? You got a guy, a big burly looking guy, it looks like, standing there with a knife and a scalp. With some scalped hair from, looks like a woman. He's standing in a pool of blood. And you probably can't see what's written on there, but it says, "I warned you not to go out tonight." And that will be repeated in the film. And truly, this cover art is what got me to rent this film. Okay. I took it home. I put it in the VCR, and I wish that you guys and gals could have seen my mom's reaction to this movie, because I was just sitting there in the living room. I was watching it, and it was the beginning scenes where the couple gets killed on the beach at the beginning. And my mom was like, "Oh my gosh, Dana, what are you watching?" And this is my mom. My mom had seen a lot of horror films up until that point, but apparently she had not seen anything like Maniac. But I think she actually sat down and watched the remainder of it with me when she had time. Maniac is a very violent film. It is the film that Tom Savini, who did the special effects makeup for, got to blow his own head off, because he plays Disco Boy in this film, and he does indeed get to blow his own fake head off with, it appears to be a shotgun blast. But there are lots of gory murders in this. I ain't gonna lie, this is not a film for the faint of heart. Now, some people may look at this and say, 1980 was tame by today's standards, and you may be right. But for 1980, and for the time period I was growing up in, Maniac was pretty brutal and gory and demented and all of that. And I think a lot of credit for that, other than the VHS artwork, whoever did this VHS artwork's a genius. But credit for, I think, the success of the movie itself has to go to Joe Spinell, who plays the main character. He plays the maniac, who is mainly killing women in this film. And, this is one that I don't want to return to over and over and over. I'm not going to lie, it's not a fun film. But if you're having a really good day and you want to watch a horror film that I feel like it takes itself seriously, some people might disagree with me, then try Maniac on for size. Give Maniac a try. Joe Spinell really works in this film. The sleaze is just dripping off of this movie. It's sleazy, it's gritty, it's dirty. And it has Caroline Munro in it. As if, Joe Spinell and the subject matter and all that stuff wasn't enough. You got Miss Caroline Munro in it, as well as a fashion photographer. So, again, Maniac is one that I can recommend. It's probably not for everybody. But just take a gander at that VHS cover art again. Like I said, that whoever created these pieces of artwork, in my opinion, they were geniuses. They were geniuses. And those of you that watched Friday Foolish, the last Friday Foolish that me and Candace did, where we were talking, or where I was talking about April Fool's Day horror films, I talked about the artwork like for Slaughter High. That's amazing artwork. And that was another piece of artwork that got me to rent something. But again, that one will be one I'll be getting to later. So that's Maniac. The next one is one of my all-time favorites. I'm sorry for the kind of fuzzy photos. Some of these photos are a little bit better than others. But this is the exact cover art that I saw and rented, with the masked killer holding up a shard of glass. And it says, if you're not back by midnight, you won't be coming home. And then on the back, we have poor young Robin Hammond, who has fallen to her death there. But that front cover art, that is what got me to rent it. As well as, this was another movie that I remember my mom talking about and my Aunt Sandy talking about. And when I finally saw it to rent, and my Aunt Sandy said, there's that movie, there's Prom Night. I was like, oh my gosh, it was like a holy grail thing again. It was like, oh, thing, lights could have, this bright light could have been coming from this VHS. Okay. So, of course, I had to rent it. This is something that I'd been hearing about for a while. And I took it home and I absolutely loved it. From beginning to end, I loved Prom Night. But again, had it not been for that amazing cover art, as well as the additional accolades from like my mom and my aunt, I probably never would have thought about watching a movie just called Prom Night, right? I had also seen trailers for it. I knew that Jamie Lee Curtis was on it, and those were all pluses. But I have to be honest, this cover art really brought this film to the forefront for me. And I feel like it probably did for other people as well. And some people may say, well, Prom Night's just some shitty, 1980 horror film. I've actually heard some people say they don't like Prom Night, that it's hokey, that the prom dance scenes are hokey and stuff like that. But I think when people say that, and you're entitled to your own opinion, everybody doesn't have to be in love with any of these movies that I'm talking about. But I think sometimes when people say things like that, they're not looking at the movie as a whole. They're picking at certain things and saying, well, that's hokey. Okay, it's hokey. But does that mean that the whole film is bad? I don't think so. Prom Night is another one that I would encourage people to check out, to watch, to enjoy, and savor and all that stuff. So, I hope I don't seem like I'm going on too long about, or going on too quickly about each one of these, but I don't intend for these to be very long streams. So we got a couple more to go for this edition of VHS Overload. So the next one is Death Ship, which is another one that, I heard my parents talk about. I think I heard my dad talk about. And I think that, my memory's a little fuzzy, but I think my parents took me to the drive-in for not only this, but Prom Night as well. So I remembered, I'll have to back up and punt on that. I remembered the very beginning of Prom Night, but I didn't remember anything after that. And that's why I had such a burning desire to watch this film when I got older. And I believe that Death Ship was another one that I remembered certain parts of it. But when I saw this VHS cover, monstrous looking face on the front of this ship, death ship in red, the small boat, and the people looking so small in the boat in this huge ocean liner looking boat. And it talks about it being a killing machine. And I know you can't see that on there, but I do know that it says something about the ship is a killing machine. So that combined with memories from my family members, um, my little fuzzy memories, I wanted to watch this thing in full. But even if I hadn't had those memories or been told about this movie in any way, this cover art would have cemented the deal for me yet again. Um, because what this movie is about, if you are not in the know, is a group of people are on a ship in the ocean, and another ship hits them, and they don't know what ship hits them. And there's a small group of survivors, including the captain of the ship, who feels like he is being forced into retirement, and he's very bitter about it. And he's played by George Kennedy. So the ship that hit them, they end up boarding that ship. But what that ship was a Nazi death ship. They tortured people. The Nazis tortured people on this ship. And so all kinds of bad things happen to these people once they get on the ship. And one of my fuzzy memories is there's an older lady, and she finds some candy in a jar on the death ship. And she starts eating it, and something bad happens to her face. And as a young child, that was very creepy. And still a little creepy to watch it, because she's walking down a dark hallway, and you get just kind of flashes of her face, and she's like, "Help me!" It's like, well, lady shouldn't have ate that candy. But I guess she was hungry. Um, but anyway, that is Death Ship. And the last one I want to talk about tonight is Don't Go in the House. One of my dogs is coughing back there. And I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys and gals the back of this as well, because this guy, played by Dan Grimaldi, who is very disturbed, and he was tortured, he was burned, he was severely abused by his mother, who kept telling him he was evil, and she had to burn the evil out of him. And then his mother dies, and he cannot cope, and he starts kidnapping women and bringing them back to this metal walled room that he's built, and using a flamethrower on them. And for those of you that haven't heard me talk about Don't Go in the House before, this has one of the most spectacular, realistic burn scenes I have ever seen in a movie. Okay. And this is 1980, folks. They did a fantastic job. They probably filmed it in like 1979. So for 1979 standards, for them to be able to create that realistic burn, it's very hard to watch too. Then, I mean, somebody had their ducks in a row with this. The film is disturbing. Not quite as disturbing as Maniac, but still disturbing. But I want to point out the cover art. This was more cover art that I saw at the video rental store, of the house and the eyes in the background. It says, "You have been warned" in bright red letters. And it says, "Threshold into horror down under the title. There's just something very ominous, but it still beckons to you. As a horror fan, something like that beckons to you. The stark black background, the old creepy house, the dead looking eyes in the background, and that bright red lettering at the forefront that has the title. How could you not read this movie? Okay. Don't Go in the House is another one of those that really stands out for me as a horror film as well. Again, some people might find it hokey. They may find Dan Grimaldi's portrayal of Donnie in this. They may find it kind of hokey, might kind of over the top. But I think that Dan Grimaldi kind of walks a fine line between it being over the top and it being representative of what somebody that's been severely abused and cannot deal with it and goes completely over the edge might do it in that case. So disturbing, not as disturbing as Maniac. But if you're at all interested in this, I would urge you to seek it out, find a for free copy. But do this on a really good day, because even though it's not quite as disturbing and sleazy as Maniac, it still has very disturbing elements in it. And I would not want somebody that was already feeling low, that had had a bad day, sit down and watch this. So make sure you're feeling really good, that you've had a really good day before you sit down and watch Don't Go in the House. If you've had a bad day at work or had a fight with your kids or your spouse or one of those things, please don't watch it that day. But I would encourage you, if you are a horror fan, to check this one out at some point in time. So that was the final one for tonight's episode of VHS Overload. I've seen some people popping in and out, and I want to thank you guys and gals for doing that. The waves in the chat, but that's okay. That's going to happen from time to time. And this is a new series that I'm starting. And honestly, I don't know how often I'm going to do these because there's work and maintaining the household, taking care of a husband, taking care of pets, and, doing all the different things that I have to do in addition to doing the fun stuff like these streams. So I don't know how often, again, that I will be doing these, but rest assured, I want to do more of these. This one's been fun tonight, even though I didn't have anybody talking in the chat. But I thank you for those people that popped in and out of here. For people that will watch us on the replay, I thank you as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I want to remind everybody, if you watch this and you haven't subscribed to my channel and you think that you might want to keep an eye on the programming that I've got coming out, please subscribe, like the videos that you like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything that I've got coming up. Okay. That notification bell is a great way for you to keep checks and balances on things that you want to watch. And those three things cost you absolutely nothing, folks, but you're still supporting the channel. You're still supporting me. You're supporting increasing my algorithms and all of that. And remember, if I get up to 1,000 subscribers, which I've got less than 100 to get now, I've got about 95. Get 95 more, and me and Candace are definitely going to do cosplay. I'm going to do Cheryl from The Evil Dead, and Candace is going to do Mrs. Roper from Three's Company. And if we can, we're going to get Chris and Steve to cosplay Chrissy and Janet. Chris doing Chrissy, Steve doing Janet. So if you want to definitely see me and Candace do cosplay. Spread the word around about the channel. If you got friends or family members that you think would enjoy the content I'm putting out, please let them know. Again, that costs you, it costs them absolutely nothing. but it supports me and it supports the channel. And I appreciate any support I can get for the channel. And I guess that's all for me for tonight. I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Friday night, folks. And let's make this weekend special. I hope on Easter you're able to spend time with friends and family and have a wonderful Easter weekend, folks. And I'll see everybody next time.